Most difficult aspects of personal finance is preparing for things that we'd rather not talk about. And at the top of that list is handling illness or even the death of a life partner. And yet that is a crucial aspect of handling. We're here with Ardy Roberto, author of several best-selling books, including Marriage and Money. Hi, Ardy.
Hi, Adric.
Great to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
We know each other quite well, even off camera, and it is just wonderful to now get your thoughts on a very recent experience, that many viewers can probably learn from.
Yeah.
So let's take off from that book, Money and Marriage. I understand, that book over there was actually written and published. I didn't know, while you were in the hospital.
Well, we had a manuscript lying around for a while. It was supposed to be part of another book, and then it kind of like fizzled out. So I was thinking, how do I make the most of my time here? So I thought about that manuscript that was lying around. My wife had some scribblings on yellow pads, and I had some chapters lying around. So I just decided, why not write about what's happening to us, money and marriage, and within 2 months we finished the book.
Wow. Yeah. 2 months in the hospital.
In the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and the whole marriage experience, how many years married?
17.
17 years.
Yeah.
All right. What sort of learnings did you have in dealing with having a partner that had debilitating disease and, the whole closure of that process?
Yeah.
Any insights?
Tingting's favorite word before was, one of her favorite words was the word sure.
Sure.
When people would ask her for
help,
she say sure, sure. So I said, okay, I'll use the word sure, and this is what we learned. S means while things are going well, start saving. Every person will experience a famine, just like we learned from the experience of Joseph. He was a big boss in Egypt. The Pharaoh assigned him to do his thing, and he saved 20% of the income of Egypt.
I love that guy.
So in the beginning of the year, I had this leading to just save, aggressively save. In the beginning of the year, I was thinking, no, I'm gonna invest in a franchise. I have this, I had some investment that had matured, so I had cash. But somehow, because in the beginning of the year, I was reading the story of Joseph, I was led to just save.
Very good.
So by the time July came, when she was in and out of the hospital, we had that buffer.
That's good.
The next one, so aside from saving, of course, you try to just avoid spending on liabilities. So
That's an S as well.
Yeah.
Save and avoid spend.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So avoid buying new cars if you don't need it, jewelry, designer bags, whatever. So I'm really blessed that Tingting was really a simple person.
And that you didn't give in when you got that windfall, right, at the start of the year?
U is for understand. Understand the condition of your flock. Understand where you are financially. Don't go into denial. Sometimes when you're in the hospital and you kind of like panic and you say, you just bahala na. Whatever comes, we'll just. And sometimes you don't know where you are financially. It's been a practice of ours for the past 17 years to have a monthly financial statement.
That's wise. So you're not caught off guard, no?
Right. So you know exactly where you are in terms of how much cash you have investment, so that when the bills come, you're prepared.
And emergencies or unplanned events, right?
Right.
Okay.
And also understand estate tax laws, for example. I know it's hard to think of.
When there's nothing wrong, also, you're saying.
Exactly, right.
Okay.
And it's also hard, like when your wife or your spouse is in the hospital, you start thinking, how do we protect our assets here? And honey, I know you're gonna die, so you guys better sign over the bank account.
It doesn't seem like a comfortable discussion, right? It's very awkward.
And it wasn't, but it was a blessing that even years before, we understood that one day, one of us would actually have to face that truth, that all of us are going to die. There are only two things that are certain, death and taxes, right? So be prepared for that. And what we did was most of our assets were protected by understanding some estate, good, wise estate planning, putting some assets into your company name or setting up a company. But then still at the end of the day, when you realize that when you go through the estate taxes, that you still have to pay taxes anyway because you have to pay on the shares.
Of what you transfer. Okay. Did you have insurance as
Yes.
part of protecting for estate taxes?
But the thing is, when Tingting passed away, so the first insurance you think about is the memorial.
Of course, yeah.
So I called the agent and she says, sorry, sir, but that memorial, that the company closed down.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know this.
So
So what do you do?
So you just
Look for other buffers, I guess.
Yeah,
no?
yeah.
Wow.
So it's a good thing that the HMO that we had, it also comes with an insurance component.
I see.
So it's like if the plan holder dies, so it's times 4 or 5 of what. So that served as the buffer. And then we also, she was diagnosed with lupus 12 years ago, and she had that miraculous recovery. I was here in ANC to share that.
Yeah.
And so she wasn't insurable in terms of life insurance after that. But before that, when we got married, I did insure her for a small amount, like $1 million. And when I called my agent, I called her and said, okay, now let's get the paperwork done.
Okay.
And I find out that the insurance company is under receivership.
Oh my goodness, that's
so there's no insurance.
Right.
So both. So you
Both
know,
fronts,
even
yeah.
insurance, you know. So you really sometimes have to. Don't put all your money there. It's good to have insurance. I mean, not all companies go under.
Right.
Just so happened that the 2 companies I chose.
Unfortunately, yeah. Wow. Sorry about that, Ardy. Yeah.
Yeah, but I had a form of insurance that time was also, we had invested also in the stock market. And it's a good thing that the stock market was
And continues to perform
grow.
well.
So that served as a buffer as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So diversify. I think what you're learning, even with insurance and how you protect yourself.
Really, yeah.
Okay.
And it's good to go with the insurance companies that are also, I mean, you never know that insurance company that we went was like, it's been there for almost 100 years.
Right. So you wouldn't think, right?
You wouldn't think, yeah.
So really diversification, I think, is the learning there. Okay. So SU.
The R stands for you need to rest and relax. So you have this big problem, you know, there's the storm is happening in your life. Your wife is in the hospital. The bills are piling up. This is just a summary of the bills, you know, and you see it every day. It's growing into first, you know, 5 figures and 6 figures and 7 figures.
Oh my.
So sometimes you just have to step back, you know, and you have to rest, take care of yourself, relax, breathe, pray. God is always bigger than the hospital bill.
Excellent. And then the E?
The E stands for, it all summarizes, I think, the first 3 points, which is expect the best, but prepare for the worst. So you expect that miracles will happen. You expect that, you know, that good will come out of this, but still prepare. And when you say prepare, you get the, how do you prepare as a manager? You get the crisis team together. Don't let all the weight, you know, build up on your shoulders. So you ask for the help of your family members,
there you go. So that's
church,
that's
the
team.
community, friends. When Ting was in the hospital, I started in the ICU. I started doing a day watch.
That was even suggested to them. But they follow benchmark interest rates, which are determined by very transparent bidding processes. SDAs, or special deposit accounts, are directly controlled by the central bank. For quite some time, this has been the main source of income of retirees or those about to retire. But this is going to be phased out this year, which is causing a lot of jitters among financial experts. Why? Because there's around 2 trillion pesos parked in SDAs as of the moment. So you can imagine what will happen to that money when the floodgates are brought down by the central bank. The question is, where is all that money going? Ideally, this should be absorbed by increased lending for productive purposes like infrastructure, factories, or your business venture. If that happens, the bullish economy that you have now is going to be even better. But for some reason, that's not happening quickly enough. Money will likely go to equities, and there's the rub. Experts are very concerned that people are chasing returns, and that's always a bad proposition when investing in the stock market. So what's the lesson here? If you're a retiree or just about to retire, CFA Noli Dipala says the low interest rate regime has likely cost you around 10 years of your working life. And if you're going to the equities market to recover that loss, be very careful of the risks. At this time, when stocks are flying high, it's easy to dismiss the lone voices in the wilderness that says, be careful. But you shouldn't. We all want our market to grow even more, but the person who dismisses the risks will be a sure loser.
Including marriage and money, and of course, Melissa Hecolea with your money questions. Inspiring story.
Very, yes. Okay, our first question comes from Floy, who asks, what can you advise to couples who are challenged to save for their wedding and invest in their future at the same time?
Okay. Well, aside from marrying someone rich,
Aside from that.
unfortunately, people just get married. They focus on the wedding, but don't
Yes.
focus on the marriage. Okay, they spend more on the wedding.
Right.
We got married. We were still recovering from the bankruptcy, and we decided, we'll just invite 50 people
Yeah.
if that's what it takes. You know?
Actually, it's more intimate that way, isn't it?
Really, yeah. Yeah, in the Philippines, if you invite 50 people, 150 arrive.
My goodness.
That's right. That's so true.
The next part of the question is about investing. So my advice is to really, even before you get married, is to go through marriage counseling that includes a financial stewardship or management seminar. My wife and I went through a 10-week program, and just together, practicing budgeting.
Before you were even married.
Before and into the marriage as well.
Okay.
And we
That's
went through
great.
the 10-week seminar once a week in the evening, and we had assignments that we had to go home and we had to list down everything that we spent for, and after a month we were supposed to report, and then now you have an idea of who spends what.
So what did you find when you started taking this seminar? Did you find that you both agreed on most points, or did you find that there were certain things that you couldn't imagine why your partner would spend on those things? Was it an eye-opening experience for both of you?
Oh, yes and no, but yes, because it was more the little things like going out. My wife, simple things like my wife likes having juice while she's having her meal. And I say, no, don't order the juice.
Oh,
That's like
they
as
kill you.
expensive.
They kill
That's
you.
as
200
expensive
pesos,
as the
150,
meal.
200 pesos.
And or we eat, honey, we're losing, so we don't have to go to the gym. We save money. Let's just half the meal.
That's smart, yes. It's a diet.
There are ways,
and-
yeah. Okay. So this question is from Cassie via Facebook. Paano nyo po ipapaliwanag ng maayos sa partner nyo yung tungkol sa prenup?
And actually, there's a related question that comes from Luz Paul, who asks, how does one partner persuade the other one to enter into a prenup agreement? What's the best approach to use without offending the other party who does not like the idea? I'm asking this because Susie mentioned this in one of her talks.
Susie Orman.
Susie on
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not the expert in prenup, but I would actually do some research first, because I plan when I get married again, I'll probably marry a billionaire.
Good.
Who'll probably ask me to sign a prenup.
Right, anyways, so that answers the question there, right?
And would you sign the prenup?
Sure. But I think that whoever it is I will marry will trust me enough not to ask me to sign a prenup.
Okay.
And I wouldn't marry someone who would ask me to sign a
Really?
prenup.
You wouldn't?
No.
What are the pros? Since obviously you think it's a
Yeah.
con.
Right.
What would be the pros of
Well,
signing a prenup?
I'd only marry someone at the point, even if she's richer than I am, to the point wherein there's total trust.
Yes.
That she will only marry me knowing that I will not spend away her fortune or her family's fortune. So if she would require me to sign a prenup, then I would rethink if I would accept her proposal to marry me.
You don't marry
Yeah,
someone
they
for
are.
their money,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
money always becomes an issue in
Sure.
any relationship, be it
Right.
marriage
Right.
or relatives,
Exactly.
brothers, sisters,
Yeah.
cousins.
Yeah.
So you have disclosure even at the start,
Right.
right?
Maybe a
Yes.
prenup agreement should be signed by the relatives, but not.
For them, right? For their assets and just
No.
second everything under the relatives. Anyways.
But,
So-
but no, I think, I mean, personally for me, just to
Yeah.
play devil's
Yeah.
advocate to you
Sure.
guys so that it's
Yeah.
not
Sure.
one-sided.
Although we're not angels.
And to help answer these
Yes,
questions,
yes,
I
yes.
think that, as Ardy said, you should definitely have a discussion before marriage
Right.
about your financial situation,
Right,
how
yeah.
you're going to handle them after you get married,
Right.
and while you're discussing that, if you want to get a prenup, you have to bring it up then, and in a way that doesn't offend that other person.
Right.
You know, so it's
Right.
not like you're looking towards the end of your marriage. No,
Yes,
you're not.
yes.
You're just, in the event of anything complicated,
Yeah.
maybe you
Okay.
are kind of trying to avoid all those issues.
Sure.
Okay.
So I think the key really either way is trust and transparency, right?
Right.
So this next question, I'll ask the first portion. Elizabeth Caceres asks via Facebook, paano maiiwasan ang pagkakaroon ng secret accounts ng mag-asawa? How do you deal with trust issues on money once you're married?
Wow.
And the related question?
And the related question comes from Rizzy via Facebook, who says, how can you overcome financial hardships in a marriage?
I believe, I personally believe, and because I have a Christian faith viewpoint, worldview, is that when you're one, you have one account, no secret accounts.
Yeah.
And that's what we practice. I was so blessed to have a wife. My late wife was so trusting that she would just entrust everything to me. She didn't have her own account. Sometimes it meant that there was no money in my wallet because she didn't even have her own ATM account. Sometimes she would just, she goes out.
ATM?
Right.
Yeah, the ATM. Ardy teller machine.
That's right, ATM.
But sometimes I go out. There was one time I went to the, I didn't have my e-pass. I went to the South Superhighway, and I didn't know that she got all the money in my wallet.
Oh no.
And I didn't
The
have
machine
anything.
is empty. The machine is
I had to
empty.
leave my watch with the.
You're kidding me.
No, I had to go back to the house and go back and pay just to get my
my
watch
It's
back.
like
Goodness.
collateral, right? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
But those are the things that it's
Good
fine.
memories. I mean, you look
Yeah,
back,
good
right?
memories, yeah.
Wow.
But it was maybe my late wife was an extreme case that she just totally trusted me with everything, and so I would have our financial statement, say, honey, this is where we are financially. This is what we have in the bank, and I show everything line by line, all the accounts, and she's all right, great, and
Well, you're both very lucky because
Yeah.
not everybody is like that,
Yeah.
as these people say.
In fact, I wanted to get your thoughts, Ardy, to answer the
Yeah.
question. What are your thoughts on assigning roles? For example,
Yeah.
all right, wifey, here's X amount.
Right.
You can deal with it. It's purely your discretion. Or husband, here's your
Right.
amount. It's
Right.
purely your discretion, right? So at least there is the very clear delineation of where the money
Right.
goes
Yes.
and how much you have to spend.
Yeah.
Do you think that'll help prevent, I need my secret account because, right?
Yes.
I want to spend on these things. Your thoughts?
well, that's where the trust thing comes. I mean, at the start of the marriage, if you don't trust each other, don't even bother.
Right. Makes sense.
So true. No,
Makes
you're
sense.
right. If
Yeah.
there isn't full disclosure before the
don't start.
marriage
Yeah.
and you
Proceed.
don't trust them, then you have to rethink everything. Okay, now we have another question from Harry Trinidad, who asks, if both partners are money earners but with two different risk appetites, should they just keep individual portfolios? What if one partner would rather have the
Where do I
other
look?
partner
Which cameras?
handle the investment finances? Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, what would you do then?
Well, if you're talking about stocks, I think she's talking about the stock having
Investment
different
portfolios.
investment portfolios. I don't see anything wrong with having separate accounts, but there's an understanding that both of you share. For me,
Yes.
I'm just thinking that maybe you can compare. It would be fun to have a sort of like a contest.
Right.
Like, honey, let's see if your sixth sense works, and let's see how my wisdom,
intuition works.
intuition
Right,
works.
right.
And at the end of the day, you just combine both accounts. So I see no problem with that. It could be a fun thing, actually.
Yeah, and it's a natural way to diversify.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right, Mel. We never saw that perspective.
Yeah,
Right?
That's right.
Husband and wife, separate
Yeah.
accounts. Yeah.
Right.
And then they asked, what if one person just handles it if they're both comfortable with that? Is that okay, you think?
Yeah, that's okay.
We have
Husband.
this comment from
Exactly.
Facebook from Mabby, who asks, some husbands don't have their own income because their wife just gives them allowance. I feel for them because they tend to have low self-esteem. The related question comes from Geisha, who says,
Geisha.
if the wife is the breadwinner and the husband is asked to raise the kids, is the husband entitled to any allowance? What do you think of these comments and
The
questions?
husband allowance.
I know some couples who have that issues, and they've come to an understanding. I know this specific couple I have in mind. The wife is executive, very vice president rank in a big company. The husband did have that kind of job, but he said, it looks like you're doing well in that job, and I have this calling to be of service. I want to serve the community. I want to serve the church. So why don't you go on and earn the money and support the family and even my vocation and ministry? And they're fine.
Okay.
He receives an allowance. And the mindset is, whether it's I who earns the money or you, it belongs to the same pocket. So,
Okay. Yeah, that's
so I guess
very
that's where
helpful.
security comes in, and
Yes.
esteem, and
Okay.
so I feel for that person who asked that question.
Right.
I know, same here.
Maybe to add to that, what are your thoughts? If the husband is feeling insecure and he does not want to step out and make money and work because the wife is just
Well,
giving
that's
him an
a different-
allowance,
yeah.
which kind of seemed like the question of Mabby, then
Yeah.
maybe she should stop giving an allowance first and say, okay, why don't you try and look for a job and go at it on your own to help boost his self-esteem and
That's
restore it.
true.
If that's the source of his insecurity, no?
Well, the
What do you
question
think?
is what is he? Where does the allowance go? If it's going into booze and
Right,
cigarettes
right,
and
vice,
gambling
yeah.
and this, then definitely, as the wife, somehow you have
That's
to put
why.
a stop to it. But if the allowance goes into, for example, buying the kids some clothes or taking them out to the mall and treating them, then that's something else for me. So
And maybe
if
just-
he's playing that role as house husband, then the allowance shouldn't stop.
It's good discussions.
Yes,
Thanks,
thanks
Ardy.
so much,
welcome.
Ardy.
You're
Anyways,
welcome.
send us your money questions via email, Facebook, or Twitter, and we'll try to answer them in our upcoming episodes or on our next Q&A Friday.